I'm Alexandra Turner, and I've been running Pine Ridge Nature Reserve for 3 years now, fighting off developers like they're mosquitoes in summer. Today was no different. Christopher Butler showed up at my office again with his damn briefcase and that practiced smile. Alexandra, you can't keep this place running on government grants forever. Watch me. I didn't look up from my paperwork. The man's persistence was becoming annoying. He placed a check on my desk, more zeros than I'd seen in months. This could solve all your problems. My only problem is you. I slid the check back across the scarred wooden surface. The answer's still no. Christopher's jaw tightened, but he kept that fake charm plastered on. You're a smart woman. Don't let stubbornness ruin a good opportunity. After he left, I stayed late reviewing budget reports. The numbers weren't lying. We needed funding, and fast. By the time I locked up, Spokane's downtown streets were slick with November rain. My truck coughed twice before dying completely on Pine Street, leaving me stranded under a broken streetlight. The rain turned vicious, soaking through my jacket in seconds. I fumbled with my phone. Dead battery. Perfect. Just damn perfect. Headlights cut through the darkness, and a silver sedan pulled over. The window rolled down, revealing a woman with blonde hair and the bluest eyes I'd ever seen. Need help? Unless you're a mechanic, probably not. I wiped rain from my face. She smiled, and something fluttered in my chest. I know cars better than most people know themselves. Pop the hood. I hesitated. Spokane wasn't exactly known for random good Samaritans. Look, I'm Luna. I just finished a reading downtown, and you look like someone who needs rescuing tonight. A reading? Astrology. Don't judge. She stepped out into the rain, completely unbothered by getting soaked. Keys? I handed them over, watching her lean over the engine like she'd done this 1,000 times. Her fingers moved with confidence, and when she looked up, rain droplets clung to her eyelashes. Battery cables are loose, happens in this weather. She tightened something I couldn't see. Try starting her up. The truck roared to life on the first try. Holy damn. How did you... Lucky guess. Luna wiped her hands on her jeans, leaving dark smudges. You should get somewhere warm. This storm's not letting up. I wanted to thank her properly, maybe buy her coffee, but she was already walking back to her car. Something about the way she moved, graceful, like she knew secrets the rest of us didn't. Wait, I called out. How do I repay you? She paused at her car door. Maybe I'll see you around, Alexandra Turner. My blood went cold. I hadn't told her my name. How did you know? But her taillights were already disappearing into the storm, leaving me standing in the rain with more questions than answers. Whatever just happened, it felt like the start of something I wasn't prepared for. The truck's heater finally kicked in as I drove home, but I couldn't shake the feeling that my quiet life at the reserve was about to get a lot more complicated. 3 days passed before I could stop thinking about Luna Morgan. Google searches turned up nothing except a small astrology practice downtown. No social media, no reviews, just an address on Monroe Street that might as well have been invisible. Christopher showed up again Tuesday morning with roses and a smug expression that made my teeth ache. Thought you might reconsider after the weekend to think. I thought you might take a hint. I tossed the flowers in the trash without looking at them. The reserve isn't for sale. Everything's for sale, Alexandra. It's just a matter of price. His confidence was starting to piss me off. Get out. Your funding runs out in 6 months. What then? I stood up, all 5'8" of me trying to look intimidating. Then I'll figure something out, without you. He left the roses anyway, probably thinking I'd fish them out later. Wrong again. By Thursday, I'd convinced myself that Luna was just a helpful stranger who happened to know my name from somewhere. Maybe she'd seen it on the truck's registration or something. Reasonable explanations for unreasonable situations. Then she showed up at the reserve. I was doing a perimeter check when I spotted her near the Eastern Trail, kneeling beside a fallen log with some kind of equipment. She wore jeans and a green sweater that made her hair look like spun gold. You're trespassing, I called out, walking over. She looked up with that same mysterious smile. Actually, I have a permit. Filed it Monday. She handed me the paperwork. Everything looked legitimate. Request for astronomical observations approved by the county. My own signature was at the bottom. I don't remember signing this. You were probably busy. Your assistant handled it. I didn't have an assistant. But there was my signature, clear as day. What kind of observations? Celestial alignments. This location has minimal light pollution. She gestured to her telescope setup, perfect for tracking planetary movements. At 2 in the afternoon? I'm setting up for tonight. Moon phase calculations require precise positioning. The way she said it, all professional and matter-of-fact, almost made me believe her. Almost. How long will you be here? Depends on the weather. Could be weeks. Weeks. The word hung between us like a challenge. I'll need to check on you. Make sure you're not disturbing the wildlife. I'd appreciate that. Her eyes met mine, and that flutter in my chest started again. Company would be nice. I told myself to walk away. Professional boundaries, Alexandra. Keep it simple. Instead, I found myself saying, coffee's always on in the main office. If you get cold, thank you. She adjusted her telescope, fingers moving with the same confidence I'd seen on my truck. I might take you up on that. That evening, I stayed late again, telling myself I was catching up on paperwork. The truth was messier. I kept glancing out the window toward the eastern trail, looking for her campfire or flashlight. Around 10, she knocked on my office door. Coffee still on? Always. I poured 2 cups, hands steadier than I felt. Find any good alignments? Jupiter's in an interesting position tonight. She accepted the mug, our fingers brushing for just a second. Perfect for new beginnings. You really believe in that stuff? I believe in possibilities. She moved closer to the window, looking out at the dark forest. Sometimes the universe puts people exactly where they need to be. The office suddenly felt smaller, warmer. Luna turned from the window, and we were standing close enough that I could smell her shampoo. Something floral and complicated. Alexandra, she said softly. Yeah? Thank you. For the rescue the other night. And for this. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed me. Soft, tentative, like she was asking permission. My coffee mug hit the floor, ceramic shattering against wood, but I didn't care. Her lips tasted like possibilities. When we broke apart, my heart was hammering against my ribs. I should go, she whispered. Yeah, you should. But neither of us moved. The next week passed in a blur of stolen glances and professional pretense. Luna showed up every evening, always with some excuse about star charts or atmospheric conditions. I'd find reasons to patrol the Eastern Trail, checking on her equipment while my pulse did things that made no sense. You're distracted, Christopher said Friday morning, dropping another business proposal on my desk. Maybe you need a vacation. I know a place in Cabo. I'm fine. I didn't look up from Luna's permit paperwork, which I'd been studying like it held national secrets. You haven't been returning my calls. That's because I don't want to talk to you. He leaned across my desk, cologne mixing with the coffee smell in a way that made my stomach turn. We could be good together, Alexandra. You just need to give me a chance. I'm not interested. In the business proposal or me? Both. His face darkened. You're making a mistake. After he left, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, hands shaking. The man's persistence was getting creepy, and I was running out of polite ways to say no. That evening, Luna found me sitting on the porch steps of the main building, watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold. Bad day? She settled beside me, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. Christopher Butler showed up again. The developer? How did you... I stopped. Of course she'd know. Small-town gossip traveled faster than wildfire. His reputation precedes him. Abigail Butler's been writing about his projects for years. His sister. You know her? We went to high school together. She's... complicated. Luna pulled out a thermos and 2 cups, hot chocolate, with something extra. The whiskey burned warm in my chest, loosening the knots Christopher had tied there. This is nice. It's about to get better. She pointed to the sky. Venus is rising. I followed her gaze to a bright point of light just above the tree line. How do you know so much about stars? My grandmother taught me. Said the universe tells stories if you know how to listen. What's it telling you now? She turned to look at me, and in the fading light, her eyes looked almost silver. That some things are worth the risk. My breath caught. Luna, I know this is complicated. Your job, the town, everything. She reached for my hand, fingers intertwining with mine. But I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time. How long? Ever. The word hung between us like a promise. I should have pulled away, made some excuse about professional boundaries or small-town gossip. Instead, I squeezed her hand. There's something you should know about me, I said. What? I don't do casual. When I care about someone, I care completely. It's messy and intense and probably more than you're looking for. She smiled, thumb tracing across my knuckles. Good. Because I don't do casual either. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the first stars emerge. The forest around us settled into its nighttime rhythm, owl calls and rustling leaves, the distant sound of water moving over rocks. Alexandra? Luna said eventually. Yeah? Walk with me? She led me down the eastern trail to her observation site. The telescope stood silhouetted against the dark trees, and she'd set up a small camp chair beside it. Sit, she said. I want to show you something. She adjusted the telescope, then gestured for me to look through the eyepiece. The view took my breath away. A swirling galaxy of stars and distant light, beautiful and impossible. The Andromeda Galaxy, she said softly. 2 trillion stars, all burning independently but connected by gravity and time. I pulled back from the telescope. It's incredible. That's what I see when I look at you. She stepped closer, and I could feel the warmth radiating from her body, something beautiful and independent, but maybe ready to be connected. Luna. She kissed me before I could finish the thought. Different from the tentative kiss in my office, this one was sure, demanding, full of promise. I kissed her back, my hands finding her waist, pulling her closer. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This is crazy, I whispered. The best things usually are. She was right. Standing there under a sky full of stars with this woman who'd appeared in my life like magic, crazy felt like the only option that made sense. What happens now? I asked. Now we see where the universe takes us. I kissed her again, slower this time, tasting the future on her lips. The next 2 weeks were a dangerous game of pretense. Luna and I maintained professional distance during the day, but evenings belonged to us. She'd show up at my cabin after dark, always with some excuse about checking equipment or discussing her research. Christopher's advances were getting more aggressive. He'd started showing up unannounced, bringing expensive wine and talking about weekend trips to Seattle. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl. You're being stubborn, he said Tuesday evening, cornering me in the parking lot. I could make your life very comfortable. I'm already comfortable. Are you? His smile was cold. Because from where I stand, this place is falling apart. Your funding's running out, and you're all alone up here. I'm not alone. Something shifted in his expression. No? Who's keeping you company, Alexandra? I didn't answer, but he'd already seen too much. Luna was waiting at my cabin when I got home, pacing my small kitchen like a caged animal. We need to talk, she said without preamble. About what? About being more careful. One of my clients saw us together last week, started asking questions. What kind of questions? The kind that could ruin both our careers. She ran her hands through her hair. Small towns don't forgive easily. I poured myself a glass of wine, hands shaking slightly. So, what are you saying? I'm saying we need to be smarter about this. Or we could stop. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. Is that what you want? No. The word came out faster than I intended. But I won't be your dirty secret either. You're not? Then what am I, Luna? She crossed the room in 3 steps, backing me against the counter. You're the woman who makes me forget how to breathe. You're the reason I can't sleep at night. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for. Her hands framed my face, thumbs tracing my cheekbones. But you're also right. We're playing with fire. Maybe I like getting burned. She kissed me then, desperate and hungry. I kissed her back, weeks of careful distance dissolving into need. My hands found the hem of her sweater, pulling it over her head. She worked at the buttons of my shirt, fingers fumbling with want. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. The storm that had been threatening all day finally broke, rain drumming against the roof like a heartbeat. Stay, I whispered against her mouth. The storm? Stay. She answered by pulling me toward the bedroom, our clothes leaving a trail across the hardwood floor. The first time we made love was desperate, hungry, like we were trying to consume each other. The second time was slower, tender, full of whispered promises and gentle discoveries. Afterward, we lay tangled in my sheets, listening to the storm rage outside. Luna traced patterns on my bare shoulder, her touch light as butterfly wings. "I should go," she said without moving. "You should." My truck's probably stuck in the mud anyway. Probably. She propped herself up on one elbow, studying my face in the dim light. "What are you thinking?" "That this is the most dangerous thing I've ever done. And I don't care." She smiled, that mysterious expression that had captivated me from the beginning. "Good. Because I'm falling in love with you, Alexandra Turner." The words hit me like lightning. "Luna, I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated. But I needed you to know." I pulled her down for another kiss, tasting the truth on her lips. "I love you too." We made love again as the storm raged outside, wild and desperate and completely reckless. When we finally exhausted ourselves, Luna fell asleep in my arms, her breathing soft and even against my neck. I lay awake listening to the rain, thinking about Christopher's suspicious questions and Luna's worried clients. The smart thing would be to end this before it got more complicated. But as I watched Luna sleep, her hair spread across my pillow like gold silk. I knew it was already too late. I was in love with her. Completely, desperately, dangerously in love. The storm could rage all it wanted. We were already in the eye of the hurricane. The first sign something was wrong came when I opened my cabin door that evening and found it slightly ajar. My blood turned to ice. I always locked that door, had since the day I moved in 3 years ago. Luna was supposed to meet me at 8. It was 7:30, and the last thing I wanted was to walk into whatever mess waited inside. The living room looked normal at first glance. Coffee table where I'd left it, books stacked on the side chair, Luna's sweater from the night before still draped over the couch arm. But something felt off, like the air itself had been disturbed. Then I saw it. A folded piece of paper on my kitchen counter, weighted down with a coffee mug. "I'm sorry for breaking in, but I didn't know where else to turn. Christopher Butler is planning something that will destroy everything you've worked for. Check the southeast boundary markers. They've been moved. I couldn't sign my name, but I work for his company, and I can't stay silent anymore. Be careful who you trust." My hands were shaking as I read it twice. The handwriting was feminine, careful, like someone who'd practiced keeping secrets. I grabbed my flashlight and headed for the southeast boundary, Luna's words from the night before echoing in my head. Be careful who you trust. The boundary markers had indeed been moved, pushed about 50 feet into reserve land, making the developable area larger than legally allowed. Fresh dirt around the posts proved they'd been recently repositioned. "Son of a bitch," I muttered, taking photos with my phone. Headlights swept across the trees, and Luna's truck pulled up beside mine. She climbed out looking worried. "Your door was wide open." I was scared something happened. "Someone broke in." I showed her the note. "Left this." She read it under the flashlight beam, her face growing pale. "Do you think it's real?" The boundary markers were moved. That part's definitely real. But who would risk their job to warn you? Someone with a conscience, or someone who wants Christopher to fail. Luna folded the note, handing it back. "What are you going to do?" "Report it to the county, document everything, make sure this development never happens. He's not going to take that well." I don't care what he takes well. But even as I said it, I felt the weight of what we were up against. Christopher had money, influence, connections. I had photos of moved boundary markers, and an unsigned note from a mysterious informant. "Alexandra," Luna said quietly, "there's something else. About being careful who you trust." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I got a call today. From someone claiming to be a journalist. Asking questions about us." "What kind of questions?" "About our relationship. How long we've been together. Whether we're living together." "What did you tell them?" "Nothing." I hung up. She stepped closer, voice dropping. "But they knew things. Like about the night I helped fix your truck. About my permit to use the reserve. Could be anybody. Small town gossip. Maybe. But the timing feels wrong. Right after someone breaks into your cabin." She was right. The timing was too convenient, too calculated. Someone was watching us, collecting information. We need to be more careful, I said. Or we need to figure out who's behind this. I looked at her in the flashlight beam, this woman who'd become everything to me in just a few short weeks. Luna, if this gets ugly, it's already ugly. She took my hand. But I'm not going anywhere. You could lose your business, your reputation. I could lose you. She squeezed my fingers. That's worse. We walked back to the cabin in silence, both of us processing what the anonymous note meant. Someone inside Christopher's company was trying to help, but they were also confirming what I'd suspected. This was bigger than just a development proposal. Inside, Luna helped me check every room, every window, making sure nothing else had been disturbed. When we finished, she pulled me into her arms. I don't want to leave you alone tonight, she said. You probably shouldn't stay. If someone's watching, let them watch. She kissed me, fierce and possessive. I'm done hiding. Luna, I love you. And I'm tired of being afraid. I kissed her back, tasting her determination, her courage. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The note sat on my kitchen counter like a time bomb, counting down to something neither of us was ready for. The call came at 6 a.m. Abigail Butler's voice was sharp, professional, the kind of tone that meant business. We need to talk, Alexandra. About what? I was barely awake, Luna still sleeping beside me in the tangled sheets. About my upcoming article. Local nature preserve manager's secret relationship threatens public trust. Has a nice ring, don't you think? My blood went cold. Luna stirred, opening her eyes as my body went rigid. What do you want? Coffee, downtown, 1 hour. The line went dead. Luna sat up, reading my expression. What's wrong? Abigail Butler knows about us. She's writing a story. Damn. Luna rubbed her face. How much does she know? Enough to ruin us both. We dressed quickly, the easy intimacy of the morning shattered by reality crashing back in. At the coffee shop, Abigail was waiting in a corner booth, red hair pulled back severely, gray eyes calculating. Alexandra, right on time. She gestured to the seat across from her. And you must be Luna Morgan, the mysterious astrologer. Luna slid in beside me, our shoulders touching in silent solidarity. What do you want? I asked. Truth. My readers deserve to know if their tax dollars are supporting someone who's compromised by personal relationships. There's nothing compromised about my work. No? Because my sources tell me you've been giving special access to your girlfriend's research, bending rules for personal reasons. That's not true. Abigail pulled out a folder, sliding photos across the table. Luna and me walking the trails together, me kissing her goodnight at her truck. Us entering my cabin together last Tuesday. These tell a different story. Luna's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. What do you want us to say? I want you to understand the position you're in. Abigail leaned back, studying us like specimens. My brother's been very patient with Alexandra, very understanding about her reluctance to sell the reserve. The pieces fell into place. This is about Christopher. Everything's about Christopher. He wants that land, and you're standing in his way. Now you've given him leverage. You're threatening us. I'm offering you a choice. Accept his proposal, both of them, and this story never sees print. My hands clenched into fists. You want me to sell the reserve and date your brother? I want you to be smart. Christopher's interest in you is genuine. You could do worse than a successful businessman. Luna spoke up, voice steady despite the circumstances. And if we refuse? Then Spokane learns about your secret relationship, loss of public trust, calls for Alexandra's resignation, questions about the legitimacy of Luna's permits. Abigail shrugged. Small towns can be very unforgiving. You're just like him, I said, using whatever leverage you can find. I'm protecting my family's interests. By destroying other people's lives. By giving you options. She gathered up the photos. Think about it. You have until tomorrow morning. After she left, Luna and I sat in stunned silence. She's serious, Luna said finally. I know. Christopher orchestrated this whole thing, the break-in, the note, probably the journalist who called me. He's been building a case. And now he has us trapped. Luna turned to look at me, her blue eyes fierce. Do you want to fight this? Against Christopher Butler and his sister? With what, Army? With the truth, with evidence of his illegal boundary manipulation. With that anonymous note. Luna, if we fight this and lose, you'll lose everything. Your business, your reputation. I already told you. Losing you is worse. She leaned closer. Besides, I don't respond well to threats. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Christopher Butler underestimated us. He sees two women he can intimidate and control. He doesn't see two women who've survived worse than him. Have we? She kissed me right there in the coffee shop, not caring who saw. We're about to find out. When we broke apart, I felt something shift between us. The fear was still there, but underneath it was something stronger. Determination, anger, love worth fighting for. What's our first move? I asked. We find out who left that note. Someone inside Christopher's organization wants to help. And then? Then we show Spokane exactly who Christopher Butler really is. The war was starting and we were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely unprepared. But we had something Christopher didn't understand. We had nothing left to lose except each other. And that made us dangerous. The anonymous note writer turned out to be Sarah Chen, Christopher's junior accountant. We found her at Riverside Park after Luna remembered seeing her at the coffee shop, nervously watching our confrontation with Abigail. I can't keep quiet anymore, Sarah said, hands shaking as she handed us a manila envelope. He's been falsifying environmental impact reports, bribing county officials, moving boundary markers illegally. This development will destroy the watershed for 3 counties. Why help us? I asked. Because I have kids. They deserve better than what he's planning. The envelope contained photocopies of financial records, emails discussing payoffs, and most damning of all, a recording of Christopher bragging about manipulating the zoning board. This is enough to end him, Luna said, reviewing the documents. If we can get it to the right people without getting Sarah fired. Or worse, Sarah added quietly. Christopher doesn't forgive betrayal. We spent the evening at Luna's apartment, strategizing. Her place was smaller than my cabin, but it felt safer somehow. More anonymous. She made dinner while I organized the evidence, both of us moving with the focused intensity of people who'd found their purpose. Alexandra, she said, setting down plates of pasta. Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. I'm sure. I looked up at her, this woman who'd become my anchor in the storm. Are you? I've been sure since the moment I saw you broken down in the rain. We ate in comfortable silence, the weight of tomorrow's battle settling between us. After dinner, Luna pulled me onto her couch, curling against my side. Whatever happens, she said, I want you to know this has been the best month of my life. Just a month? Feels like forever. Good forever. I kissed her temple, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. I love you. I love you too. The words felt bigger tonight, weighted with everything we were risking. Luna turned in my arms, her eyes serious. Make love to me, she whispered. Luna, please, I need to feel you, all of you. I carried her to the bedroom, hands trembling as I undressed her slowly, memorizing every curve, every sigh. We made love with desperate tenderness, like we were trying to pour everything we felt into each touch, each kiss. When she cried out my name, I felt invincible. When I collapsed against her afterward, breathing hard, she held me like I was something precious. No matter what happens tomorrow, she said, this is real, we're real. Promise me something. Anything. If this goes wrong, if we lose everything, promise me you won't regret it. She pulled back to look at me. The only thing I'd regret is not fighting for us. The next morning, we put our plan into action. While Luna delivered copies of the evidence to the county prosecutor and the EPA, I called an emergency town meeting. Sarah had agreed to testify, despite the risks. By noon, word had spread through Spokane like wildfire. Christopher Butler's empire was crumbling, and everyone wanted a front row seat. The meeting was packed, standing room only. Christopher sat in the front row with Abigail, his face a mask of controlled rage. When he saw Luna and me enter together, his eyes narrowed. Seems like we have some uninvited guests, he murmured to his sister. Let them come, Abigail replied. This should be interesting. I took the podium, my hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Ladies and gentlemen, I have evidence that Christopher Butler has been systematically defrauding this community. The room erupted in murmurs. Christopher stood up, his face red with fury. This is harassment. I won't stand for these baseless accusations. They're not baseless. I held up the manila envelope. I have documentation of illegal boundary manipulation, environmental fraud, and bribery of county officials. Where did you get that? From someone in your organization who still has a conscience. Sarah stood up from the back of the room, her voice shaking but determined. I gave her those documents. Everything in there is true. The room fell silent. Christopher's control finally cracked. You have no idea what you've done, he snarled, pointing at me. I offered you everything, and you chose her instead. I chose honesty over corruption. You chose to destroy your own future. Luna stepped forward, taking my hand. She chose love over fear. Something you'll never understand. The gesture was simple, but in that packed room, it felt like a declaration of war. Christopher's face twisted with rage, but before he could respond, the prosecutor walked in with 2 deputies. Christopher Butler, you're under arrest for fraud, bribery, and conspiracy. As they led him away in handcuffs, Luna squeezed my hand. We did it, she whispered. We did it. But even as victory settled over us, I knew the real battle was just beginning. Christopher was gone, but the town would remember what they'd seen today. 2 women who'd stood up to power and won. The question was whether Spokane was ready for that kind of truth. The days following Christopher's arrest felt like living in a fishbowl. Everyone in Spokane had an opinion about what had happened at the town meeting, and most of them involved Luna and me. You see how they held hands? I heard Mrs. Patterson whisper at the grocery store, bold as brass, right in front of everyone. Times are changing, her companion replied. Not sure it's for the better. Luna squeezed my hand tighter as we walked past them. Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You don't have to face the county council next week. The emergency council meeting had been called to address the leadership crisis at the nature reserve. Translation, they wanted to know if I could still do my job with all the distraction of a personal scandal. Abigail Butler's article finally ran that Thursday, but it wasn't the hit piece we'd expected. The headline read, Local Women Expose Environmental Fraud, How Personal Courage Saved Public Land. I almost choked on my coffee reading it. She interviewed Sarah, Luna said, looking over my shoulder. And the EPA investigator, and half the town council. Why would she write this? Maybe she's not as much like her brother as we thought. The article painted us as whistleblowers who'd risked everything to protect the community. It mentioned our relationship matter-of-factly, like it was just another detail in the story. No sensationalism, no judgment, just facts. Luna's phone rang. Her face went pale as she listened. That was the prosecutor's office, she said after hanging up. Christopher's pleading guilty to avoid trial. Full cooperation with the investigation. That's good news. There's more. He's agreed to fund the nature reserve for the next 5 years as part of his plea agreement. Something about making amends to the community. I stared at her. He's funding what he tried to destroy? Justice has a sense of humor. The county council meeting was standing room only. I walked in expecting a fight, but the reception was surprisingly warm. Mayor Johnson stood up as I entered. Alexandra, before we begin, I think we owe you an apology. Sir? We should have investigated Butler's claims about the boundary markers ourselves. Instead, we left you to handle it alone. I wasn't alone. Luna smiled at me from the audience. Even from across the room, I could feel her support like a physical thing. About your personal situation, Councilwoman Martinez said carefully. While it's generated considerable discussion, the consensus is that your private life is your own business. And your professional conduct has been exemplary, added Councilman Wright. The reserve is in better shape than it's been in years. Thank you. There is one request, Mayor Johnson continued. The community would like you to consider accepting a commendation for your service, a public ceremony recognizing your dedication to environmental protection. I looked at Luna, who nodded encouragingly. I'd be honored. After the meeting, Luna waited for me in the parking lot. So, she said, leaning against my truck. How does it feel to be Spokane's environmental hero? Weird. Good weird, but weird. Get used to it. Sarah told me 3 other counties want to hire you as a consultant. What about your business? Any fallout? Actually, I got 5 new clients this week. Apparently, standing up to corruption is good for business. I pulled her into my arms, not caring who saw. We really did it, didn't we? We really did. So what now? Now we figure out what comes next. She kissed me right there in the parking lot, and I felt the same flutter in my chest that I'd experienced that first night in the rain. But this time, it wasn't fear or uncertainty, it was anticipation. Luna, I said against her lips. Yeah? Move in with me. She pulled back, studying my face. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm tired of spending nights apart. I'm tired of pretending we're something casual when we're not. What are we? We're forever, if you want to be. Her smile was brighter than any star she'd ever shown me. I want to be. As we drove back to the reserve together, I thought about how much had changed in just a few months. Christopher was gone, the reserve was safe, and the woman I loved was moving in with me. But the best part was the quiet certainty I felt, like the universe had finally aligned itself properly. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The stars were coming out as we reached my cabin, and Luna immediately started planning where to set up her telescope. Perfect view of the eastern sky, she said, surveying the yard. We could build a proper observation deck. We. She took my hand. Partners in everything, remember? I kissed her as the first stars appeared, tasting the future on her lips. 6 months later, Luna and I were living together like we'd never been apart. Her astrology equipment shared space with my wildlife research, creating a perfect blend of science and mysticism that somehow worked. The morning of the commendation ceremony, I found her on our new observation deck, watching the sunrise through her telescope. Nervous? She asked, not looking away from the eyepiece. Terrified you? For you? Always. The ceremony was held at the nature reserve, which felt appropriate. Half of Spokane showed up, including Sarah Chen, who'd been promoted to head of environmental compliance for the county. Without Alexandra Turner's courage, Mayor Johnson said into the microphone, "We might have lost one of our most precious natural resources to corporate greed." The applause was genuine, warm. I looked out at the crowd and saw faces I recognized. Mrs. Patterson from the grocery store, the prosecutor who'd arrested Christopher, even some of Luna's former skeptical clients. I didn't do this alone, I said when it was my turn to speak. I had help from someone who believes in truth, justice, and the power of love to overcome fear. Luna smiled at me from the front row, and I felt that familiar flutter in my chest. Change is hard, I continued, but sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes we have to choose between what's comfortable and what's right. After the ceremony, Luna and I walked the trails together, greeting visitors and answering questions about the reserve's future. A young couple approached us near the eastern boundary. "Excuse me," the woman said. "Are you Alexandra Turner?" "Yes. I'm Jennifer, and this is my girlfriend Sarah. We just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For showing us it's possible to be open about who you are in a small town." Sarah nodded. "We've been together 3 years, but we've been hiding. After everything that happened with you two, we decided it was time to stop." Luna squeezed my hand. "It's not always easy. But it's worth it," I added. "Love is always worth it." After they left, Luna and I sat on the bench we'd installed near her original observation site. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. "Alexandra," Luna said softly. "Yeah? There's something I've been meaning to ask you." She pulled a small velvet box from her pocket, and my heart stopped. "I know we've only been together 8 months. I know it's fast and crazy and probably terrifying." She opened the box, revealing a simple silver band with a small diamond. "But I also know I want to spend the rest of my life looking at stars with you." "Luna, marry me, Alexandra. Not because it's conventional or expected, but because I love you beyond reason, because you're brave enough to fight for what matters, because you saved me as much as I saved you." I looked at the ring, then at her face, glowing in the sunset light. "You realize this means dealing with wedding planning, right? And my terrible cooking? And the fact that I sing off-key in the shower? I'm counting on it." "And you realize people will talk? Let them talk. I'm done hiding." I kissed her before answering, tasting forever on her lips. Yes. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll love you for the rest of my life. Yes, I'll keep fighting for what matters as long as you're beside me. She slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Everything with Luna fit perfectly. When? I asked. Tomorrow, next year, whenever you're ready. I'm ready now. Good. Because I already booked the chapel for next month. I laughed, pulling her closer. Confident, weren't you? I had a feeling the universe was on our side. As the stars came out, Luna set up her telescope one more time. Instead of showing me distant galaxies, she pointed it at the moon. Make a wish, she said. I already got everything I wished for. Make another one. I looked through the eyepiece at the moon's cratered surface, then at Luna's expectant face. I wish for a lifetime of nights like this. Granted, she said, kissing me under the stars. The future stretched out before us, uncertain but full of possibilities. We'd face whatever came next together, the good times and the bad, the easy days and the hard ones, the quiet moments and the adventures yet to come. Spokane had changed us, but we'd changed it too. Love had a way of doing that, of transforming everything it touched. And we were just getting started.